Hey, what is up everyone? As many of you already know, Sega is throwing their name into the hat to go ahead and release their classic console, which is going to be coming out later on this year. That's going to be in September, and that is the Sega Genesis Mini. That's going to be coming out again in September of this year, so not too far off from now. And I think it has the potential to be the best of these mini console releases so far. I'll tell you why in just a moment. Now, of course, as we know, the latest one was the Sony PlayStation Classic, which was kind of a disappointment. It was one that I was really looking forward to and unfortunately fell flat for me. It was a price tag of about $100, and the game list was really not up to par, and in my opinion was not worth the $100. There was a lot of games on there that I felt were just not essential to that system, and there was some games on there that of course are high value games. And I say that if they'd be high value if you were to buy the discs of them, like Intelligent Cube and Persona. Those are games that are about, are easily like over $100. So I think that's what they thought might balance everything out and make it worth buying for people. But there was a lot of lackluster games on there, games like Destruction Derby and a couple others that I just felt were not really essential for that system. I mean, it had a couple good games. It had Metal Gear Solid, of course, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII, and things like that, which of course were essential to the popularity of the PlayStation. But it just felt like a really big missed opportunity with the PlayStation Classic, and for the price tag, I just could not. I couldn't justify buying it, so I didn't. And as of the time of this recording, I still have not bought one. I'm gonna wait until they're a little bit cheaper or going on clearance to finally get a hold of one. Now, my favorite of these mini console releases so far has been the SNES Classic, and the reason for that I think is pretty self-evident. It had a much stronger game list. It was $79.99, had 2 controllers, which was a big incentive to buy the system, HDMI capability, and of course it had 20 games on it, just like the PlayStation Classic, but they were really good games. Like, these were like essential games. Definitely most of them deserve to be on there. I mean, if anything, there was maybe a very small handful of games that I could have done without on it, but for the most part it felt like you were really getting your money's worth. And then on top of that, another incentive to get it was the fact that you could unlock the previously unreleased Star Fox 2 on that system. So there was just so much more incentive to buy it. I felt, and I still feel, that it's been the best value of any of these mini consoles that have come out thus far. That is until I heard about what the Sega Genesis Classic is up to. So, of course, they're going to also be $79.99 price tag, 2 controllers as well, HDMI capable, but check out this game list. So number 1, and of course this should come as no surprise, Sega's mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog. But that's not the only reason this game is on the list. This was definitely a game that was a turning point for Sega in the console wars, and I say that because it really got a whole new set of eyes onto the Sega. Fantastic game. Don't be surprised if you see more than one Sonic game on this list, because truly all of them, at least all the ones that came out on the Sega Genesis, in my opinion, that were platforming Sonic games, I should say, deserve to be on this list. So absolutely agree with Sonic the Hedgehog. Absolutely agree with number 2 as well, Ecco the Dolphin. Fantastic game, innovative, made it fun to play as a dolphin in a video game. Castlevania Bloodlines. Now, this was the only Castlevania game to ever come out on a Sega console, so it absolutely belongs on this list. Space Harrier 2, another Sega property. Shining Force, another Sega property, great game, definitely deserves to be on this list. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Machine, of course, a puzzle game. This one is a little debatable, but I could understand why it's on here. I never cared for it all that much, but I know there's a lot of people that like this game a lot, and because it's a Sega property, again, I could understand it being here on the list. Toe Jam and Earl, fantastic game. Comic Zone, oh man, so many great memories of Comic Zone. Another one of those games that when you played on the Sega Genesis and you were looking for something innovative, this was one of those games that really shined when it came out, was Comic Zone. Altered Beast, who doesn't remember Altered Beast? So much fun. One of the early release titles on the Sega Genesis. Absolutely belongs on this list. Gunstar Heroes, this is a fantastic choice for this list. Not only is this a great game, and again, shows off the capabilities of the Sega Genesis, this is one of those games that is expensive if you try to get it now for the Sega Genesis. So now you could get it here as a part of the Sega Genesis Classic Mini on this great list so far. Castle of Illusion, as you all know, look, and World of Illusion, look, Disney games were the bomb on the Sega Genesis. Not even just on the Sega Genesis, but if you remember, even some of the games that came out on the Sega Master System that were Disney games were really good games. So, of course, these are games that people remember. These are games that deserve to be on here. Thunder Force 3, good game. Super Fantasy Zone, good game. Shinobi 3, of course, absolutely another Sega property, belongs on this list. Of course, as most of you remember back in the day, if you remember playing on the Nintendo, it was all about Ninja Gaiden. But if you played on Sega, it was all about Shinobi. And don't be surprised if you see another Shinobi game on this list. Now, Shinobi 3 by far was the best in my opinion, but don't be surprised if down the line they announced Shadow Dancer is one of the ones on there. Now, me personally, out of the two, I liked Shinobi 3 a lot better. I have very fond memories of playing that game. Fantastic. Now, this one right here, this next one, very special. Streets of Rage 2, absolutely cannot have this list without probably the best, in my opinion, beat 'em up game on that system, and that is Streets of Rage 2. So many sleepless nights playing this game with my best friend Manny at his house. Earthworm Jim, another fantastic game for the Sega Genesis. Glad they included on here. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, my personal favorite Sonic game. And of course, like I said, absolutely belongs on this list. I won't be surprised if they also add Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles. Don't be surprised if those are also released on here. And you're probably asking, wait, what do you mean if they're released on here? And I'll explain that in just a minute for those of you that don't know. Now, let's go on to the next one here. Contra Hard Corps. Great game for the system. Another game that is actually raising in value right now on the system, as well as Castlevania. Castlevania is another game. Like most of these games that are on this list so far, these are games that are not, you're not going to find them very cheap if you buy them separately on the system, except for maybe the Sega property games. Those are probably like the Sonic games. You'll get those relatively cheap, and maybe a couple of the other ones. But a lot of these games they're like games like this, like Contra Hard Corps, not a cheap game to buy. This is probably about a $60 game, maybe more at this point. You know, by the time this recording goes out, maybe it will have gone up in value. I don't know, but we'll see. Landstalker, another great game. Now, for those of you that don't know, Landstalker is actually a spiritual predecessor to a game that you might remember that Working Designs published on the PlayStation called Alundra. Before that, this was the game. This was the spiritual predecessor to that game, made by the same company, or developed by the same company. So, for those of you that love Alundra, this is Alundra's. I won't say this is probably Alundra's. I guess granddaddy, if you want to skip a generation there. I don't know. I don't know how you would say it, but basically this was the forerunner to Alundra, was Landstalker on the Genesis. A fantastic game, and again, another one that deserves to be on this list. This is a very solid list for the Sega Genesis Classic, and what's great about it, and this was the thing that I was wanting to mention before, that's only the first 20 games that they've announced for this console. It looks like Sega is saying, you know what, Nintendo, you guys might have won the console war before, but you know what? We're going to win it now. We're not going to put 20 games on this console. We're going to put 40. So already, with just the 20 games they've listed, they've already sold me on the system. To know that there's going to be 20 more potential gems that are going to be a part of this system for the price tag of $79.99, man, I'm already sold, man. I already want to buy the system. Now, of course, hopefully there won't be any kind of technical issues with the system. As I said before, I'm looking forward to getting this thing though, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what other games they're going to add to this list. Already I could probably see them adding Vector Man, Rocket Knight Adventures, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, maybe Streets of Rage 3, maybe even the first Streets of Rage, maybe Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, who knows? I mean, man, so many potentially good other games that could be on this system. Another 20 games that can be, like I said, potentially great that they haven't even announced yet, and already they're off to a solid start. They just stormed right out the gate with a fantastic game list for this system. So let me know what you guys think about it though. What other 20 games do you think they're going to add to this system? I mean, maybe I'll make a separate video about that where I kind of speculate what the other 20 games might be. Let me know what you guys think of the 20 games so far. Is this something that is interesting to you? Do you not care? Are you kind of over the whole mini console thing because of the whole Sony PlayStation Classic debacle? Let me know in the comment section below, and until next time, y'all, you know how it goes. The hunt continues.